Hello and welcome back. Today, like I announced last time, I'd like to talk about the quite freshly revealed universe of Colony, and give an overview of the main content and lore currently available for it, as well as talk about its creators, the Hexahedron Studios. My main source of information is the website of the studio, and the videos already available on their YouTube channel. Links to those and any other sources will be in the description. I highly encourage you to check it all out for yourself. I plan on making separate videos delving deeper into each faction and other topics in the future, but today I'll present the main appeal and story that hopefully will get you interested in this new franchise the same way as I am. I wanna start by talking about Hexahedron Studios itself, as I think it looks as promising as their projects. To put it simply, they're a group of talented creators, passionate about storytelling and different forms of art, and to quote their own words, our objective is simple: to create new worlds and tell stories through a myriad of artistic mediums, and encourage creators with us to expand beyond their imagined limits. I think that's a really admirable goal, especially given that at almost every point in their mission they emphasize fundamental values and ideas such as putting creativity and creators first, collaboration, and overall quality of production. Another thing to note is that the inspirations they list include universes such as Middle-earth, Warhammer 40k, Halo, or Bionicle, and I think their influence can be seen in their first original IP. And speaking of that, let's finally talk about it, the flagship universe of Colony. Colony takes place on the world of Aoyama, which is inhabited by races collectively known as Sectan, and, as the name might hint at, they are based on real-world insects, but instead of acting purely on sheer instincts, they have free will and a bit more human-like features, which in turn allow them to develop cultures and civilizations, and they use their Neolithic technology, and in some cases also magic, to survive in this dangerous world, whether battling wild monsters or other nations. The current main tribes are the agricultural ants called Thora, the underground termite dwellers called Terra, the proud bee people of the Empire of Apoi, the mantis monks known as Manta, the arcane butterfly mages called Ra, and their dark counterpart, in the form of moths, known in this world as Het. There are also the musical grasshoppers called Idom, though we don't have much info about them yet. The main approach to world building that Hex has taken is what they call scientifically informed fantasy, which is a process where creators take the natural features of some real-world species, their biology, behaviors, and unique traits, and use them as a base for the fantastical aspects of the created world. This allows those aspects to have some grounded context and internal consistency, and I think that is a really great approach to have, as it also allows the audience to learn about those real-world concepts through the fantasy lens. And with that, let's finally delve into that lore, starting with the Song of Origins, which is a kind of creation myth, told in the Sectan cultures through oral tradition. According to this legend, it all started with the Deep, a dark dimension filled with endless frost, stone, and eggs. From one of those eggs hatched a shining being called S, who, after going lonely, called to the other eggs to hatch, and from them came other beings, simply called the Countless. Among those Countless were 8 who would form S's council, and came to be called Asetari. Those beings were Su the Violet, the god of wisdom, her twin brother, Zek the Sanguine, the god of passion, Ao the Azure, the peaceful god of tranquility, serenity, and apathy, Ur the Ochre, god of intellect and understanding, Lir the Emerald, the god of ambition, determination, and even greed, Dar the Saffron, god of merriment, revelry, and drinking, Lu the Fuchsia, a shy and small god of purity and innocence, and lastly, Oct the Umber, god of integrity and great loyalty. Using their godly powers, Asetari took part of the Deep and formed it into a land which they called Aoyama. Then they laid eggs there and returned to the Deep to prepare for their hatching, but during that time many arguments and conflicts erupted amongst the Asetari, which greatly saddened S, and Zek, being one of the closest to him and wanting to ease his pain, went to Aoyama to call forth the eggs. But they were not yet ready for that, which resulted in the creatures that hatched from them being just formless flesh. One of the eggs actually didn't hatch upon Zek's calling, which angered him and so he crushed it. Still, Zek asked the first Asatari to come and see the new hatchlings, as he hoped that it would brighten his mood. And well, that didn't really happen. Not only did it resume his sadness, but seeing the crushed egg, Ez actually got angry himself, which later resulted in the sanguine Asatari being cast out of the council and stripped of his title, thus becoming Zek the Crimson. As for the eggs, Ez and Su used their powers to fix what they could, allowing the prematurely hatched creatures to take form, and filling the crushed egg with Su's light. That egg was then planted into the ground, and after being tended to by the beasts, which Ez called the Sora Soul, it eventually grew into a slenderous tree, which would be called the Mother Tree. After time, the Mother Tree made a sap containing 5 kings and 5 queens, which began the first 5 sectant races. And those races at that time were Apoi, Manta, Sikau, the predecessors of Edom, Toph, who would later split and evolve into Terra and Thora, and lastly Ra, who would become Ra. The queens were imbued with magic from the Mother Tree, which in turn came from Su herself, and they passed that magic from queen to princess in each of the 5 kinds. For 100,000 generations, the nations lived in peace under the protection and splendor of the Mother Tree. But during that time, 3 of the queen lines have ended, some even on purpose, and so magic only remained in 2 nations, the Toph and the Apoi, which ultimately led to a war between them. After 3 days of battling and countless losses, the Mother Tree put a stop to it by taking away the magic from the queens, and giving it to all Ra, who were the humblest of all sectant races. Following a year of grieving, during which she seemingly started to weaken, the Mother Tree exiled her children, and told them that one day they shall return to her, to await to be remade in Ez's glory. After the exile, the sectant nation spread across Aoyama, trying to find a new purpose. In that time, many changes happened in the structures of some nations. New tribes were established, and also many wars were fought. But after a million generations after the exile, peace was at last achieved. Though perhaps not for long, as the fallen Asatari, Zek, returned to Aoyama, and using his treachery and schemes, managed to open the amber that once was the pool of Mother Tree's sap, unleashing monstrous creatures, such as the kill centipedes or the arak spiders. Zek lied to them that they were the true inheritors of Aoyama, and bid them to conquer the land, which they tried to do to this day. The Song of Origins was first read on a special livestream on Hexahedron Studios Discord server, but it will also be available on YouTube, in a more appealing form, featuring visuals and voice acting. It's also important to remember that this is an in-universe creation myth told by sectant tribes, so we might learn that some things were actually different. To quote the creators, some things are lies, some things are truer than even when they are stated here, in very ironic ways. Now let's talk a bit more about each of the 6 main factions. Like I said at the beginning, I'm planning on making separate videos in the future with all the information we know about them, but here I'll present the core concepts and ideas. The Thora, who are based on ants, specialize in different agricultural practices, like growing crops or taming wild beasts, though that doesn't mean that they are not formidable in battle. They are known to be very ingenuine and find clever uses for each part of a killed creature. For example, using the abdomens of Ampi, which are lightning bugs, as a source of light. There are many different tribes of Thora, one of the most known ones being Lin, who specialize in domesticating wild animals, like the colo beetles or the mosaic mosquitoes. A distant relative of Thora are the Terra, who look a bit similar to them as they are based on termites. Their main domain is the underground, where they establish their cities and mines amongst the system of interconnected tree roots. One particular place there is called the Barrow, an industrial marketplace visited by many sectan. Another characteristic feature of Terra's culture is crafting objects and weapons out of amber, as it is quite effective against monsters, something that might be related to their origin. The Apoi are known for building great hives, where they produce their honey, as they are inspired by bees and wasps. They use their goods in trade with other nations, but are generally distanced, secretive and also quite prideful. Their warriors are called Valkyr, and while good on their own, they are especially effective when in the air, as being carried by wings allows them to utilize their second pair of appendages, for example to reload their bows faster. Next we have Manta, based on mantises, who spend their days secluded in monasteries, where they observe the movement of the stars and interpret prophecies, such as one about the Savior, who will guide all the sectant tribes back to the Mother Tree. Though they are peaceful, frequent raids by other nations have led them to develop a unique fighting style called the Ard, which perfectly utilizes their unique anatomy for self-defense. Ra, the butterflies, are the only tribe who still have magic, as it was given to them by the Mother Tree. They presumably start their life as rat caterpillars, and spent many years in arcane colleges, gaining mysterious knowledge, until the time is ready for them to go through the trial of patience and pain, after which they emerge in their new and noble form, adorned with mystical wings, containing great power. They are the Mother Tree's chosen protectors of all Sectan, tasked with ensuring peace on Aoyama. However, there are some Ra who rejected that destiny, and chose to become wandering merchants, called Mir. Last but not least, we have the Het, based on moths, and like in real life they're related to butterflies, or in this case Ra. According to the legend, when Zek returned to Aoyama, he persuaded one Ra into exchanging the color of his wings for the fallen Asetaris' power, and in result that Ra became corrupted by the dark magic. However, afterwards he was quickly dismissed and forsaken by Zek, as his main need was to open the Amber of the Mother Tree, and so the first Het and his descendants were left to search for revenge and enlightenment, cultivating their powers and alchemy in the dark caverns of Aoyama. Another unique and quite characteristic aspect of this world is the way the Sectan races communicate. While there is a universal spoken language, which will be explored in a proper conlang, the need for writing is fulfilled by pheromones, which are the special chemicals released by animals that can mark certain places of interest. And in the world of Colony, they manifest in the form of glyphs that reveal memories to a Sectan when they inhale the air around them. Apart from being used purely for information, like road signs or outpost assignments, those glyphs can also be used for memorial and artistic purposes, like being put onto special walls of history in temples, which showcase depictions of important historical events. You can even see Pheromone's labyrinth pattern in Colony's logo, and in general I think it's a very solid design that gives the real-world feature a very mystical vibe and enriches the overall aesthetic of the world. Now I want to talk about the media of Colony, both available and upcoming. First off, we have the musical album that was released at the end of the last year, titled The Sounds of Aoyama Volume 1. Composed by the head lead of Colony and Hexahedron Studios as a whole, Isaac Muir, as well as other artists from the team, the album sets the musical tone of the world, with individual tracks working as themes for specific factions or just the general story of Colony. It features a lot of soothing ambient tracks, like in Amber Veins or Awaken. But also doesn't lack more energetic ones, like Barrow's Mine or the creepy but engaging Consumed by Hunger. I've actually used some of the tracks in this video, so you've already heard some of them, but I encourage you to check the entire album for yourself. Next we have currently one of the main vessels for the world of Colony, and that is the upcoming tabletop RPG. Combining elements from traditional RPG systems as well as trading card games, the game will allow people to play as 7 different Secton races, the 6 I've talked about earlier plus the Edom grasshoppers. Each race will presumably have different playstyles, and there will be a system of 5 basic character attributes that will interact with the cards in some way. Gameplay aside, I'm sure that the rulebooks will be chock full of lore and details, so even if someone doesn't play tabletop RPGs, I think the game will be worth their interest. I also wanna add that Hexahedron will be open to receiving fan-created campaigns, and if they like them enough, they might turn them into official stories. There is no release date for the game yet, but the studio said that the development is reaching its final stages, and they share more about that development on their Patreon. For now, the main conveyor of the lore has been the artwork available on Hex's website. Every month there's a new piece of art published there, as well as on their other platforms, sometimes containing a short description and sometimes whole paragraphs of new info about different aspects of the world. Hex has also been releasing them in the form of narrated shorts on their social media, including YouTube, so you can check them out in that form if you don't like reading. And speaking of YouTube, their channel also hosts some unique content, that being the video explaining the scientifically informed fantasy and giving examples of how it was applied. There's also the upcoming fully voice acted reading of the Song of Origins, which goes more in depth into the creation myth and also features some exclusive artwork. In the future, Colony will also feature dedicated story media, like novels, online serials, and graphic novels. While all of that is currently away from the focus of any newsletters and announcements, we do actually know a tiny bit of things about 2 plot points that are gonna be touched upon in the first novel. And they are the musical powers of the Edom and something related to a genocide that happened in the Secton history, as Ra led the crusade against beings that bear the color of red or any similar, since it was associated with Zek. Other than written material, Hexahedron Studios also aims to produce films and video games in the future, so they have quite the large plans, both for the medium and the universe itself, as what was presented so far in terms of lore is only the first phase of Colony. Personally, Colony has really captivated me, mainly thanks to the beautiful artworks and how much lore they contain, as well as how each faction has a distinctive visual identity. I hope that I've piqued your interest in this new franchise even a little, and if you stayed for the whole video, then thanks a lot for watching and have a well spent day. Following a year of grieving, during which she seemingly started to weaken, the Mother Tree exiled her children. 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 The Mother Tree exiled